G'day viewers. Today I thought I'd give you a quick rundown on how I removed my inlet manifold from my V6 3 litre Mazda Tribute motor, and it's also the same as the Ford Escape. So I'll go through the steps I use to do that, and then what I'll also do is explain how I remove the rocker covers as well. It makes it much easier than a lot of the other processes I've seen on YouTube. We'll go ahead and I'll start with, I always start from left to right. So what we start, and I'll use my laser and a torch so I can highlight things a bit better. But disconnect the two harnesses on the left hand side of the inlet manifold. Then you've got three vacuum lines here. They can be done with pliers, but just be careful with the middle one. When you can push it off, but make sure that you keep it in a way that it stays behind some of the other vacuum hoses, because if it gets mixed up, it makes it very hard to stretch it to put it back on. So I had to actually play around a bit to get mine back on, because I let it get tangled with one of the other vacuum hoses. So you undo those three, then you come around to the EGR valve. Now on the EGR valve you have a nut that holds the harness bracket in place. You need to do that first. Now what I did with that was I just put a piece of paper in the socket and pushed it onto the nut firmly, so I could, when I undid the nut, it didn't drop and fall down the back of the engine and lose it. So you just put a piece of paper in your sockets when you're putting it on things that you might drop, and you'll find you won't ever lose them. Then there's a stud underneath that needs to be removed as well. There's also a stud on this side that needs to be removed, and then that just drops out of the way. There's also a electrical connector on the valve, so you just undo that electrical connector. Now the EGR itself only has two bolts, and I undo those two 10 mils there, and that allows that to move out of the road. There is a gasket in between the bracket and the EGR that you have to be careful with, but you won't damage it if you're careful, and you can just reuse it. And take the vacuum off the top, and that makes it, that's all you need to do there. Then you've got the idler control here, idler valve, so all you need to do with that is undo the electrical connector there. Then underneath that you've got the throttle positioning sensor, so you just disconnect the electrical connector on that, and that's all you need to do. Then you've got a 10 mil clamp that holds the inlet here, and you've got an 8 mil there. So I don't know why they put an 8 and a 10, but maybe it's the size of the clamps. Then you can remove the vacuum off the top. That's all you need to do there. Then underneath you need to be aware that there's a breather hose for the gearbox that attaches underneath. Now as you can see from here, I'm hoping I can get it on the camera, it actually points down. Some people put it in up and have the end of the breather out here, which is incorrect, so put it back in the right place. Then there's another vacuum hose that goes from here down into under the throttle body. Now you can just disconnect it up here if you want to, but what I did was I actually undid it from here, and if I can get down here I'll show you. You can see there's a clamp down there that you get with a pair of long pliers, and undo that. So that's the easiest way for me, because that then keeps the hose off the inlet manifold. Your cruise control cable and your throttle cable, remove those. Then there's 1, 2, 3, 8 mils to remove the accelerator cables out of the road. And then I usually do my bolts in order, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And that way, with that done, the inlet manifold will come off quite easily. Now, for the things that I did differently for my inlet, for my rocker covers, is what you do is drain your radiator partly. Now, drain your reservoir out. Get your fluid level down below here, so you can then disconnect the radiator hose there. Once that's out empty, you can actually remove that hose out of the road, which gives you access to all your rocker cover bolts across the front. Now also you need to undo the engine lift point, which is an 18 mil bolt underneath. You'll need to get underneath, and you'll need a 1/2 inch with two long extensions and a breaker bar to undo that because it's done up pretty tight. Now, some people say take it right off. I didn't. I only released it enough to actually be able to move it back and zip tie it against the water pump belt, and I just held it out of the road there. So that was that one. And then the other one is a problem is the oil dipstick tube. Now, what I did with that was I put a long Phillips head screwdriver that I have, a big one that fits down right in on top. You could probably do it with 1/4 inch extensions on your socket. Gently pulled it up against to here, and I zip tied it in place. Now when you do that, you can access, as I said, you can access all your bolts across the front of here for your rocker cover, all the ones across the back easily, and your rocker cover will come up, out and turn up and out of the road very easily. For the back, the only problem I had with the back was this power steering hose that goes across the back, and up here there is a bracket that's a U-shaped bracket that it sits up inside to keep it from touching on the engine. You push it down under the U piece and pop it out of the road, and you can actually then get to all the bolts around the rear rocker cover. Now the reason now from here I'll actually go to my tools. This is the tool that I use for doing hose clamps. You can pick them up on eBay cheap enough. They fit really easily. Let's see if I can find one. I'll do it on here. You put it on top, put it on the bottom, and you just clip it up, and it ratchets, and it fits perfect. It does it very easily, and same way to replace them. Fits into little spots like the one down here where it was hard to get to. You can just put it down, clamp it up, move it out of the road. It's a very handy tool to have, very cheap on eBay, so buy yourself one of those for your removing your harness. Easy enough to do. Just use a tool like this, and it's very easy to remove your electrical harnesses. Now, you'll need a pick for removing your gaskets. I recommend that if you don't have them, buy yourself 1/4 inch sockets, 1/4 inch extensions, and a 1/4 inch universal, because they'll become very handy. With 3/8 and 1/2 inch to try and get down into where these bolts are and studs are for your rockers. Very hard to get in there with that size. So if you use a 1/4 inch, much easier to get into where you need to go. Now I generally use a 1/4 inch socket because none of these are done up harder than about 20 Newton meters. So they're mostly 10 and 15. So you don't really need any great pressure on them. You'll need a couple of a 10 and an 8 extension. That one's, you probably can't see it, but there's a little piece of paper still inside that one from where I've used it. Now, so from there, this is a tool that I've only just recently purchased, and I love it. It's got a much bigger extension on it than what normally have. It gets into all the places that you need to get into really easily. Put a step down on it so you can use your 1/4 inch to undo everything. And I'll actually use this tomorrow because I'm going to remove the inlet manifold, and this will be another video that I put on where I actually do the full service, service on the pulling the inlet manifold off. So that's a very, very handy tool. I bought that off AliExpress, I think, or either Temu or AliExpress, one of the two. It's very, worth the money. It was about $50 or $60 Australian, and if you get it when it's on special, it includes shipping. For gaskets, I would recommend FlowPro. Now, FlowPro, I have no affiliation with any of these companies or anything like that, but I bought a set of gaskets off one of the companies on eBay. They arrived, and I used them, and it was sucking air. So when I took them out and I measured them with a micrometer, the thickness of the material for the other inlet gaskets were 1.2 millimeter, where the FlowPro were 1.5, which gave you a much better, denser fit. So I recommend FlowPro if you're going to use gaskets on anything. When you're removing and replacing your coils, you'll need a good silicone grease to protect the rubber against the spark plug so they don't actually attach themselves to the spark plug. I found this one, there is a particular name for it, but I can't remember what it is right at the moment, but there's a particular name for this type of grease. but it's excellent for, you just look up on eBay of what grease to use for coils, and you get this multi-purpose synthetic grease. That was $25 here in Australia off eBay, so that was I bought that so I can do the coils on the motor when I pull it apart tomorrow. And you'll need cotton buds to just put it inside the coil, but not on the actual spring itself, so you get the lubricant on that. I've got a 1/4 inch socket set for torquing. This is just a simple one. I've also got a digital one, but this one is just quick and easy. And then you'll need long nose pliers. If you don't have a set of these, it's worth buying them. They're cheap on eBay, and I've had them for 3 or 4 years now. I think they probably cost me $20 or $30 for 4 of them. But these are the 3 I need right now. And then the last thing I've just bought is a if I can get it open, is for setting the gap on a spark plug. Now, I know it sounds silly, but you get a spark plug and you use your gauge and you open it up, and then you measure it, and you've got to tap it down on something solid to try and get the gap to close. With this, you screw the spark plug in here, you put your gauge in the spark plug, and then you just wind the point of the spark plug down till it touches where you want it to touch, and then you screw the spark plug out and plug it in. So it's a much easier tool to set all your spark plugs, especially when you're doing 6 or 8, like all my cars are V8, big 6. I've got a Cherokee outside, V8 Cherokee, 4.7 litre Cherokee outside that I need to do some work on, so it'll come in very handy for that. So that's the tools that I use to do this, and the process is, you'll need a pick. You'll need a pick to remove your gaskets. Now, you'll see gaskets over here where I've already done this once. Now there's a problem I have with one sensor, so I'm going to have to pull the inlet manifold off again. That's why I'm doing it again. So that's a quick rundown of the tools and the process of how I have already done the rocker cover gaskets and replaced the inlet manifold. But I'm going to do it all again, and I won't be doing the rocker covers, but I'll do the inlet manifold again, and I'll film it all stage by stage.